6 days, and that's incredible. And I think the credit goes to the organizing team and none other than Srinivas sir. Moreover, I am really happy to be here today. So please let me share my presentation. Srinivas sir, am I audible?
Sir, proceed, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Audible, sir. Perfectly audible.
Presentation is also sharing, sir.
Okay, 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 thank you.
Yes, check one, sir. The PPT not shared, sir. The window is shared.
Okay, okay, thank you. So today my topic of discussion is imagining evolution, thought experiment. Um, and I'm telling students, mainly students, please don't consider it as a so-called lecture that goes over your head. It's more like a storytelling. I will tell you a story and then I will help you to understand that story.
Sandeep, sir.
Yes?
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the interruption. Check
Yes.
one, sir. Your screen is sharing. Entire screen is sharing. Not the presentation is sharing, sir. Check one, sir.
Okay.
PPT
Okay.
is not sharing, sir. Share the PPT, sir. Window with PPT.
Is it sharing now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it?
Now it is done, sir.
Okay, 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 okay. Thank you. So what I was telling that I will tell you a story and then I will help you to understand that story. How to imagine a story that you haven't seen. I may ask a few simple questions during my talk, especially to the students. Please don't hesitate. Just feel free to answer. Today I'm going to tell you the story of evolution, that is Parinamam in Telugu, I guess. I hope all of you. Please don't ask me any question in Telugu. I will not understand. Okay. I hope all of you heard the term evolution. Can anyone please tell me what do you mean by evolution? Any student? In few words. Anyone? What is evolution?
Origin of creatures in the world.
Anyone at a time.
Origin of creatures in the world, sir.
Okay. Anyone else?
Gradual changes, sir.
Okay, right. That one is better. Gradual change, you have mentioned. Yes.
Parinamakrama.
Yes. Okay, fine.
Parinamakramam, sir.
Yes, yes, yes. Evolution means what last person said, that gradual change. It's correct. So evolution means gradual change or gradual development of something. It may be physical, it may be chemical or biological. I am changing the slide. Please tell me it is changed or not. The slide changed, sir?
No, sir.
Oh. The slide is visible now, no?
It is done, sir. It is done, sir. Done. Done, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. So, the famous quote by famous scientist Theodosius Dobzhansky, that nothing in biology makes sense except in the light of evolution. So for better understanding of biology or zoology or botany, one should have an idea of evolution. So to understand evolution, we need to quantify and categorize time starting right from the beginning of Earth. Since the evolution is gradual, the time intervals are huge. It's gigantic. Let's start with some big numbers like million or billion. As you can see in the screen, that um, um, in number system in India, it is we call in lakhs or crores, but in US it is like million or billion. So we need to have some idea about these terms. 1 million means 10 lakhs, and 1 billion, the difference is huge actually. 1 billion means 100 crore. So there is a huge difference, and you need these terminologies in my forthcoming slides. So we should have an idea of such big numbers to understand the evolutionary process. Another basic concept that is essential to study evolution is the geological timescale. So I don't know whether you have this in your syllabus or not, but it is essential component to study evolution. Geological timescale is a system of chronological division of time, starting from the formation of Earth till death, based on some geological dating techniques. That is beyond the scope of today's lecture. I will discuss it in another lecture. It will take another lecture, what is carbon dating and all. So keep in mind that based on some geological dating techniques, it is done. And it is like a calendar of events. So let's see how it looks. So here, the largest time intervals are called eons. If you follow my pointer, the largest time intervals are called eons. It is subdivided into eras, and then era is further subdivided into periods. And in few cases, period is subdivided into epochs. Okay, so these are the smaller divisions, and if we go this way, the division is larger. That is, time interval is much more. So it starts with Haden. This one is Haden. So it began with the formation of the Earth, that is about 4.6 billion years ago. And it is characterized by Earth's initial formation from stardust and gases. It also includes the development of its atmosphere and oceans. Next, this one, Archean. It started from around 4,000 million years to 2,500 million years ago. During this eon, the Earth's crust cooled enough to allow formation of continents that helped beginning of life on Earth. Next, Proterozoic. This one, it is a geological eon spanning the time from the appearance of oxygen in Earth's atmosphere to just before the proliferation of complex life. This eon is extended from 2,500 to 540 million years ago. It is the longest eon of Earth's geologic timescale, and it is subdivided. It is further subdivided into 3 eras. That is, which is not mentioned here. That is Paleoproterozoic, Mesoproterozoic, and Neoproterozoic. And last of all, this eon, that is Phanerozoic. So this is our area of interest of today's lecture, because most of the biological evolution took place in this eon, that is in Phanerozoic eon. So it starts with Cambrian period, Paleozoic era and Cambrian period. So you must have heard the term Cambrian explosion of life. So Cambrian explosion of life occurred during the beginning of this Cambrian period, and then Ordovician, Silurian, Devonian. This Devonian is also called Age of Fishes. You will see later on. Then Carboniferous. Carboniferous is sometimes grouped into Pennsylvanian and Mississippian. And then Permian. Permian is also called the Age of Amphibians. And then we are entering into next era, that is Mesozoic, with the first period Triassic, then Jurassic, and then Cretaceous. You must have heard the name of Jurassic from the movies, Hollywood movies, Jurassic Park, and this Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, that is Mesozoic era, is called Age of Reptiles. You know, dinosaurs. And then the last era, that is Cenozoic, which is divided into two periods, Tertiary and Quaternary. Now, in the modern geological timescale, Tertiary is called as Paleogene and Neogene, and ultimately the Quaternary period, this is the recent one. And Tertiary and Quaternary is further divided into 7 epochs, like Paleocene, Eocene, Oligocene, Miocene, Pliocene, Pleistocene, and Holocene. So we are now in Holocene epoch. It is written today. And this Cenozoic era is called the Age of Mammals. So this is all about geological timescale. So to learn evolution, to understand evolution, one must have a rough idea about this geological timescale. In the next slide, you are watching a wheel of geological timescale that will give you a rough idea how Earth evolved so far, starting from its formation. This is the formation of Earth 4.6 billion years ago, and the wheel goes up, and different periods, different epochs, different eras, all are written here, and ultimately it ends in Holocene. Okay, I will request participants to please mute yourself. Okay. Now let's start the story. Wait a minute. I'm turning off my video because I'm not that much important here. Just follow the slides and listen to my voice. And I will request all the participants to keep yourself muted, please.
Sir, Sandeep sir,
Yes.
video is not sharing, sir.
No.
Presentation.
Yes. I'm
Video
sharing.
is okay, sir. Presentation is it is now it is coming, sir.
Yes. Srinivas sir, slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It is right.
Okay.
Visible, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So let's start the story. Oh. The journey starts almost 5 billion years ago. A newborn star is surrounded by dust. Through time, gravity pulls the dust into tiny rock By this process, a gigantic ball of fire formed about 4.6 billion years ago. This one. There is no question of life. Earth looks like a hell. And this is the today's Earth. And you can compare. Ocean of lava flows everywhere. The average ambient temperature is about 1100 degrees centigrade. There is no air, only carbon dioxide and nitrogen mainly. About 4.5 billion years ago, a young planet called Theia, this one, is heading straight for Earth. It collided with Earth, which is also known as Great Impact Hypothesis. In this impact, trillions of tons of debris blast out into space over the course of 1,000 years. Gravity turns the rubble into a ring that encircles Earth. From this ring, a ball forms, and that is our moon that we see today. In that time, moon was much closer, just 14,000 miles away from Earth. And that time, whole day duration was about 6 hours a day. Now we need to fast forward through time. 3.9 billion years ago, a hail of asteroids and meteors attacked Earth. Inside the meteors, crystals, this one in the inset, crystals that look like grains of salts, and inside the crystals, minute droplets of water. Only a small amount of water exists inside each meteor, but as they bombard Earth over 20 million years, a pool of water grew, or pools of water grew. Air temperature is now about 75 degrees centigrade, and multiple geological studies have concluded that asteroids are most likely the primary source of Earth's water. Earth cools down and moon moves away. Life-giving water covers the surface of Earth. However, the atmosphere is still toxic and hot. So, still there is no life. About 3.5 billion years ago, mind it, billion, okay? I have told you in the beginning that 1 billion means 100 crore. So, that is multiplied by 3.5. So 3.5 billion years ago, these structures are present in shallow ocean. They look like rock, but each mound is a colony of living bacteria called stromatolite. They were able to turn sunlight into food, a process all you know called photosynthesis. Underwater, the stromatolite slowly fills the ocean with oxygen. Over the next 2 billion years, oxygen level continued to rise. It took 2 billion years to increase in the rise of oxygen level. Let's again fast forward through time. Now the day duration is 16 hours. Earth is now a ball of water with tiny volcanic islands. Hidden beneath the ocean, the Earth's crust breaks into vast plates, you all know, and movement of plates changes the face of the Earth. Around 1.1 billion years ago, due to this rearrangement of plates, a supercontinent formed called Rodinia, and it looks like this. Now the day duration is 18 hours and air temperature is about 30 degrees centigrade. Now again fast forward. About 750 million years ago, Rodinia started to break up. That supercontinent started to break up. And intense geological activity leads to massive volcanic eruptions. They pumped carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and carbon dioxide, when mixes with water, to create acid rain. Many exposed rock absorb the acid rain, including the carbon dioxide, and hence huge amount of carbon dioxide absorbed out of the atmosphere. Now, there is not enough carbon dioxide in the air to trap the sun's heat due to greenhouse effect, we all know. As a consequence, in just few thousand years, the temperature decreases to minus 50 degrees centigrade. And the result is this snowball Earth. More the ice, more sunlight it reflects away from the planet. And ice, a huge ice sheet up to 10,000 feet thick covers the entire planet. So Earth first began as a molten ball of fire, is now turned into a frozen ball of ice. So contrasting. Volcanic activity comes to rescue from this frozen state of Earth. Volcanoes released billions of tons of carbon dioxide into atmosphere. But now, since there is no exposed rock as before to absorb the gas, so it fills the atmosphere and temperature rises due to greenhouse effect and ice begins to melt again. About 600 billion years ago, Earth is waking up and it's a very different place. Atmosphere is warmer and day duration is of 22 hours. Ocean water now is a perfect recipe for life. So we are approaching Cambrian period. Nearly 540 million years ago, the ocean is now full of life. You can see it is called Cambrian explosion of life, and the life forms are completely different what is today. There are trilobites, Vivaxia, mollusk-like animal, sponges, Anomalocaris, this predatory invertebrate Anomalocaris is now all are now extinct. And Opabinia, Picaia, this is the ancestor of you may say cephalochordates, you know. So these all were present in that Cambrian period, and there are lots more. During mid-Ordovician period, about 460 million years ago, a new continent formed called Gondwana. Oxygen levels are close to what they are today, and ambient temperature is about 32 degrees centigrade. Land should be covered with plants and crawling with creatures, but there is not much sign of life besides a few patches of algae. The main cause being the UV radiation of sun. That is why there is no significant life on terrestrial habitat. Over 120 million years, the ozone layer gets thickened and prevents more and more radiation from reaching the Earth's surface. And ultimately, about 430 million years ago, land plants evolved in Silurian period. The earliest land plant, Cooksonia, date from the middle of Silurian. This Cooksonia includes the oldest known plant to have a stem with vascular tissue and is thus a transitional form between the primitive non-vascular bryophytes and the vascular plants. In Devonian period, a strange fish called Tiktaalik, this one, uses its neck to raise itself up, and its fins function as legs, allowing it to move out of the water. And it's a giant leap in biological evolution. Tiktaalik is a transitional form between fish and amphibians. I think most of the students know here. 360 million years ago, their relatives called tetrapods make the land their home. Now we are in Carboniferous period, which is full of giant invertebrates like this Meganeura, these giant millipede, spiders, scorpions, and oxygen level is much higher than today. In Carboniferous period, a lizard-like creature called Hylonomus prefers land to lay eggs. Its eggs contain all the water and nutrients that the developing fetus needs, and the babies grow in their own self-contained pod. This egg is a major evolutionary breakthrough in evolution. Let's fast forward through time again. Small lizards are now giant reptiles. As you can see, somewhere in Siberian plain, a herbivore, this one called Scutosaurus, and two predatory Inostrancevia are interacting. Actually, they are predating on Scutosaurus. Scutosaurus are the distant relatives of turtles. These Scutosaurus, they were herbivores, and they are distant relative of turtles. This is about 255 million years ago. About 250 million years ago, massive volcanic activity leads the largest mass extinction of all time, which is called Permian extinction, in which 95% of the species went extinct. 95% of the total species present in that time went extinct. Only 4 or 5% left, and they began the evolution again after this mass extinction. Due to movement of plates, the continents again merge into a single supercontinent called Pangaea. This time, it stretches from pole to pole, from North Pole to South Pole. It was distributed like that. And you can see Eurasia part, North America, South America, African part, Antarctica. This is India. This small portion is Madagascar, and this is Australia. They all merged together. With 95% of all life on Earth wiped out, the niche is now open for new species to emerge. And the age of dinosaurs begins. That is Mesozoic. Mesozoic is divided into 3 periods, I have said: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. And these 3 periods are all about dinosaurs, different kind of dinosaurs. As you can see, they almost captured each and every habitat: the aerial habitat, the terrestrial habitat, and the aquatic habitat. All the habitats are taken up by this highly successful group of animals called dinosaurs. They ruled Earth for about 165 million years. They were so successful. And about 175 million years ago, Pangea began to break up. When dinosaurs were dominant, mammals were also there, but they were much smaller in size, just like a shoe, a small mammal shoe. It is believed that as asteroid of about 11 to 12 kilometer in diameter struck the Earth near the Gulf of Mexico, this impact is the major cause of extinction, which is known as KT extinction. It is the second largest mass extinction in history of Earth, in which 75% of species went extinct, including dinosaurs. But the dinosaurs' demise brings opportunity for mammals. As you can see, this shoe-like mammal, this paper was published in Science, was the ancestor of all the future mammals. You can say mammals are the unlikely inheritors of the dinosaur's crown, because if there was no KT extinction, who knows, perhaps dinosaur is still ruling the earth. Now the ambient temperature is about 25 degrees centigrade and day is 24 hours long, just like today. This is a fossil of a primate called Darwinius macaulay that used to live 47 million years ago. The fossil was named Ida and it was discovered in 1983 about 35 kilometers southwest of Frankfurt, Germany. Ida lived during the Eocene epoch in the Tertiary period. Although Ida and her relatives, the species, were vegetarians, they were most likely prey for megafauna of that period. So in my next slide, I will show you a glimpse of megafauna, which is also called Pleistocene megafauna. And see, they look so different from today's mammals. This is Paraceratherium, saber-toothed cat, woolly mammoth, woolly rhinoceros. This is Glyptodon. It is a relative to modern armadillo. This is, again I forgot the name, Macrauchenia, this one, Macrauchenia, and this is the terror bird. It is tall like human, like 5 or 6 feet, terror bird. It is a predatory bird. So these are Pleistocene megafauna of that time. The Earth's plates are on the move again. India moves northward towards Asia. This Indo-Australian plate ultimately collided with Eurasian plate to form Himalayan range, spanning almost 1500 kilometers. Earth looks very similar to what it looks today, but one thing is still missing: the human race. And for humans to evolve, something needs to change. What is that? About 4 million years ago, along the African coast, a great rift opens up. This is Arabian region, as you can see. This is African Horn, this is African continent, this is Lake Victoria, and this is the coastline. So after Great Rift opens up. This East African portion, this East African portion was once full of forests, like tropical rainforest. But due to certain geographical features, the lush rainforest becomes an arid savanna. And this change in habitat forces the ape-like creatures to search for food, and they begin to stand and walk on 2 feet. And this is most important step in human evolution. In the next slide, you can see this is the hominid group, and humans started evolving in Ethiopian Rift Valley of Africa. I would like to mention one thing here, that in your books or in photographs, most of the time you see a linear evolution of humans, which is not actually true. The human evolution, whole evolution process is a ramifying process that is having numerous branches. So that type of picture is misleading. Okay, so evolution is a ramifying process. It is not linear one. About 70,000 years ago, sea levels fall, and the gap between Africa and Arabia, this portion, shrinks to just 13 kilometers. The Red Sea, this portion is Red Sea, is now narrow and shallow enough for a small group to cross out of Africa. And so from Africa, they came to this India, and then Northeast, Southeast Asia, and Australia, and later to Europe about 35,000 years ago. And after crossing this China, Siberia, Russia, Siberia, then they after crossing the Bering Strait. Once they were, these two portions were joined, about 15,000 years ago, through Alaska, they entered North America. And that is why this portion is called New World, because it is occupied by human much later. And about after crossing Panama Isthmus, this small land portion, they entered South America, that is about 10,000 years ago. And so here is the end of my story of evolution. Now, one can definitely question, why do I believe in such stories? I haven't seen anything happening in front of my own eyes. Yes, you are true. Definitely, it's a valid question. And no, I can't show you any direct experimental evidence. But I can show you the way how to imagine this story in your mind. And here, the thought experiment comes to play. So first of all, we need to know what is thought experiment. Let's have a definition first. So a thought experiment is an experiment in one's imagination. What we are going to imagine is not literally possible because it takes us way, way back in time. But imagining that thing teaches us something very important. So how to imagine that thought experiment? So let's start. Find a picture of yourself. We all have photographs or pictures. So find a picture of yourself. Now take a photo of your father and place it right behind it. Then find a photo of his father, that is your grandfather, and then your grandfather's father, that is your great grandfather. You may not have ever met your great grandfather. Still, you can imagine him as a sort of shadowy figure, perhaps a fading brown photograph, and carry on piling pictures. You can go on doing this even before photography was invented. This is thought experiment after all. So how many grades do we need for our thought experiment? Here I am helping you a bit. 185 million or so will do it nicely. So we need 185 million photos. It is easy to say, but it is difficult to imagine a pile of 185 million photos. How high would it be? If each photo was printed as a normal postcard on normal postcard paper, 185 million photos would form a tower of 220,000 feet high. That is more than 160 New York skyscrapers on the top of each other. You can imagine. So for convenience, let's imagine the tower, the tall tower, as horizontally placed bookshelf, or rather photo shelf. Here there is no books, we have photos. So it is a photo shelf. Photos are packed along the length of the photo shelf. So how long is that photo shelf? It is, believe me, 65 kilometer long. 65-kilometer long photo cell. The near end of that photo cell has a picture of you, and the far end has a photo of your 185 million great grandfather. What did he look like? We don't know exactly what he looked like. Can you tell me, anyone, how that last picture will look like from the students of PR Government College? Anyone? How that 185 millionth photo look like? The first one is your photo. Anyone?
Quite dark.
Anything else?
Different from the present moment.
Okay. Believe it or not, your 185 million great grandfather was a fish. Yes, a fish. Okay, machli. Let's now walk along this 65-kilometer long photo cell, pulling photos of it, and one by one have a look at them. Every photo shows a creature belonging to the same species as the photo on either side of it. Everyone looks just like the neighbors in the line. Yet, if you walk steadily from one end of that photo cell to the other, you will see a human at one end and a fish at the other, and lots of other interesting great grandparents in between. Excuse me. Great grandparents in between, which, as we shall see, include some animals that look like apes, others look like monkeys or shrews, and so on and so forth. Each one is like its neighbors in the line, yet if you pick any two photos far apart in the line, they are very different. So how can this be? actually, it isn't that much difficult to understand for us. We are quite used to gradual changes. I have told you that evolution is gradual. Step by tiny step makes a big change. We all were once a baby. Now we are not. And when you are a lot older, you will look quite different again. Yet every day of your life, when you wake up, you are the same person as when you went to bed at previous night. A baby changes into a toddler, then into a child, then into an adolescent, then an adult, then an old man. It goes on. And the change occurs so gradually that there never is a day when you can say that this person has suddenly stopped being a baby and become a toddler. Or you can't say yesterday this person was an adult, today he is an old man. You can't say like that, isn't it? So evolution is also like that. So it was all very gradual, so gradual that you wouldn't notice any change as you walk back 1,000 years or even 10,000 years, which would bring you to some around 400 great grandfather. You would not notice any general trend, as you can see here. 10,000 years back from modern humans is not long enough to observe any general trend. Then how about 1 lakh years? Where we might find your 4,000 great grandfather. Well, now maybe there would be a just noticeable change. Perhaps a slight thickening of the skull, especially under the eyebrows, but it would still only be slight. It still looks like a human, isn't it? Now let's push a bit further back in time. If you worked the first million, that is 10 lakh years along the shelf, the photo of your 50,000 great grandfather would be different enough to count as a different species. And it is Homo erectus. This is Homo erectus. All you must have heard the name. Now, from Homo sapiens, it is changed into Homo erectus. And if you keep on doing this again and again, this thought experiment, ultimately you will probably get a photo like this in the last photograph of the self. And it would look like this. And this is all about the thought experiment. If we go on doing this again and again, you will go into from vertebrates, you will enter to invertebrates, and then to multicellular organism, to single cell organism, and ultimately from the origin of life. This is how we need to think about evolution. So this is all I wanted to share with the students, and thank you so much for your patience hearing. And one thing I would like to mention to the audience that I have a wide range of virtual academic platforms on social media in Facebook, YouTube, Telegram, or Instagram, named Biologic, where lots of academic activities like quizzes, webinars, research updates, biological facts, and various competitions are organized. If anyone interested present here, you are welcome to join. And if you have any further questions or queries, you may obviously ask here, but we have a shortage of time. If you have any further queries, you can reach me through these email IDs. Okay, so thank you so much for your patience listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It is a wonderful and scintillating presentation, and you have mixed up the basics with the thought-provoking and imagination processes.
Yes.
And it is very informative and a process of new approach, and it is very good and a wonderful presentation, sir. I request any queries from the participants.
Yes, please. If you have any queries or questions in your mind, just speak it out. Just write in the chat box, and Srinivas sir will convey the questions to me. Thank you so much, all the participants that you liked the presentation. If you have any queries, you may ask. And Srinivas sir, if you have any questions, you may also ask.
Sir, Srinivas,
It is very
can I,
sir. Proceed, sir.
can I ask one
Proceed, sir.
question with your permission?
Sure, sir. Sure. Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sir, our vice principal sir is posing a question, sir.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you, Professor Sandeep Paul, for your scintillating presentation. But I have a question, one or two questions. One, is there any formula to count the pace of a change of a species? That is, from one species to the origin of another species. It will take some time. But is there any regularity in the change of a pace? If so, is it possible to understand the evolution of humans, or the maybe face the body structure and etc. of the humans after 25,000 years? Number one. Number two, with the progress in science, in genetic therapy maybe, or genetic intervention, I'd call it, are we not trying to change the pace of evolution? Do you consider it right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Both the questions were really good and logical questions. Thank you for asking. First of all, I would like to say that as far as I know, there is no hard and fast rule in evolution or any equation like that, that this species will change into that. Not like that. But it depends on, totally depend on chance. We are here, we humans are here right now and interacting like that. This is a 1/1,000,000th of a chance we are here. If in million of years ago, if there is a small change in lineage from this to that, that what I have said, that if there was no KT extinction, perhaps dinosaurs were still present and dominant species in this planet. But KT extinction occurred and mammals got the chance, and they evolved, ultimately gives rise to humans. And you have said that what is the future of human race, right? I have gone through few papers where I have seen that predictions, all are predictions, that ultimately human being will, the enlargement of eyes will occur, and probably our external ear, pinna, will shed off. And these kind of changes we can predict, but we cannot certainly tell that this will happen. We can't tell like that, but we can predict, obviously, it may happen. And yes, the genetical modifications, whatever we are doing, as you have mentioned, on different kinds of biotechnological modern activities we are doing, like change in gene and something like that, obviously it has a significant effect on evolution evolutionary rate. We can change the rate of evolution by the modifications of gene. That is obviously there is a significant effect on the evolution rate. Sure, sir.
Do we have the right?
Do we have the right?
Purely,
as a, yes, sir.
purely ethical.
Yes. That's we are now dominant species, and we are we think by the way we like to think, and we are doing whatever we want to do, and I think in most of the cases the ethical part comes when it is related to human. But in case of wildlife, still more conservation effort and protections required. It is there, but I think more ethical issues must be implemented to stop this kind of, you may say, animal abuse by doing these changes, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. And one more last question. Sorry for asking more questions.
No. Sure, sir. Welcome.
We have just discussed that water was brought to Earth by meteors, right? If so, that
Sir, pardon me once again, please, sir.
water got into meteors, and from there the water came onto Earth. We discussed this, but how do we know where that water comes into meteors from? From which place does these meteors you have referred to got water around 350 crores years ago? And before stopping, I'd like to suggest to my students to see a documentary called The Young Age of Earth. The Young Age of Earth of National Geographic Channel, which gives a beautiful presentation of evolution on Earth. Thank you.
Yes, right, you are, sir. And that portion, that water came to Earth through the meteor, that all about evidences and the papers I have got in different journals. From that, it is almost well established that all the water we have today that came from the meteor shower that went for around 20 million years, and still we can guess it.
Water comes into meteors from where?
Yes, that's the question, because if we see the solar system and the universe as well, we will see the water molecules is present in many planets. Even in the Mars, water is also there. So whatever I have presented, and journals are what they are presenting, all the research find outs. So in those stones or meteor-like fossils, they have discovered water molecules, and from that they concluded like that. That's what I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Sir. Thank you. Thank you, Srinivas Garu. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what we can say, who is the main driver of evolution, ecology or genetics?
Actually, full evolution process is a hereditary process, obviously, because if there is no formation of DNA and that packed within the cell, then there is no question of biological evolution. Obviously, it is a hereditary, but there is an ecological effect on each and every species. So we can say obviously there is a effect of hereditary or genetics in evolution, but there is also the effect of ecology in the development of those species and distribution of those species, and that ultimately leads to that speciation process. There is also a effect of geographical distribution, and obviously ecology is involved in that. So both are shaping the evolutionary process.
So
Sir,
as you just said about speciation,
Mhm.
so can we link adaptive radiation with speciation?
Actually, adaptive radiation is a kind of speciation process where from a single mother species, different kinds of species diverge from a single point. That is why it is called radiation. It is kind radiating. So adaptive radiation, obviously, and the speciality about adaptive radiation is here the speciation occurs due to ecological adaptability of species, because we have seen in adaptive radiation that we use this term in case of evolution of marsupials in Australia. So in Australia there was one time there was one ancestor marsupial. From that they got the vacant habitat of vast Australian realm, and ultimately someone went onto the tree, some went to the water, and some occupied the different habitats in terrestrial habitat, and ultimately get adapted to it and specialized on it, and ultimately gives rise to new species. That is adaptive radiation. So adaptive radiation obviously occurs involving the speciation process.
Okay,
sir,
thank you.
we have a question in the chat box, sir,
Mhm.
from Manoj Tota.
Mhm.
The question is like this, sir. Can
Can
we
we?
bring our ancestors today? Can we
Okay.
bring our ancestors today by changing the genes? That is Homo erectus.
Yes, if we get the intact DNA from, I think, from fossil, there is very little chance or no chance of finding DNA, because that is a special fossilized specimen. And if we get DNA from not only Homo erectus, any animal, then we can make a copy of that, and we can do we can bring back those animal, obviously, because it was shown in the Jurassic Park movie that from a mosquito that sucked blood from the some dinosaurs, they got the DNA and they created that dinosaurs in Jurassic Park movie. So this is a sci-fi movie, but yes, if we get that kind of DNA, we can do that, maybe.
Okay, sir.
Hello,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
I am. Hello, Sandeep, sir.
Uh-huh.
I am.
Proceed, sir.
I am from Guntur Government College for Women.
Okay.
This is a good lecture, and you have worked so much for preparation. It is not a
Thank you so
story.
much.
It is not a story. You showed with some evidences also, and
Yes.
it is a good work. And you also told the origin of earth, origin of cells, origin of animals. So it is very good lecture and informative. You did
Thank you.
good work, and I thank the Department of Zoology for organizing this seminar webinar. It is very informative to students and some faculty also. The topic is also a good evolution, and I thank once you again, sir. Yeah,
Thank you.
both are-
Actually, there is lots of information about evolution in the books. The convergent evolution, divergent evolution. But I didn't want to go to those theories. I just wanted to tell students the story, and that thought experiment part is different. It is not included in the in our syllabus. So that's why I represented it in a different way. That's it.
Sir, anyhow, you collected so much references and so much work. I thank you once again. And ये बहुत अच्छा टॉपिक है, आपको मैं thank you करता हूँ. शुक्रिया.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Yes.
good afternoon, sir.
Yes,
This is Hemant from AVN College, Visakhapatnam.
Yes.
Sir, thank you for your great presentation, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question about niches and convergent evolution. How is it different?
What?
Sir, how is niches different from convergent evolution?
No. Okay. See, niche or niche, whatever. There is no way to compare these two. Okay, convergent evolution and divergent evolution. You can compare convergent evolution with divergent evolution, but niche is different. I am telling. So one thing you can compare, that is convergent evolution with ecological guild. Okay, ecological guild, or you may say ecological similarities. You can compare it. Say in convergent evolution, what happens? Convergent evolution means two species are different and distantly related. Say like a cephalopod, octopus. Okay, a cephalopod and vertebrate. They both have eyes. Okay, but they are distantly related. But in certain character, here it is eye, these two eyes are so similar. So this is called convergent evolution, where with respect to one particular character, the two distantly related species seems like they are similar.
Okay.
Why this happened? Because there is a similar function, but development is different. Okay, but in case of ecological guild, here you can compare like that a small bird called hummingbird that you can see in USA, North America, but you will not see that bird in niches of India. Why? Here you will get another type of bird occupying the same niche, that is sunbird. So sunbird and hummingbird of America, these two are similar. Okay, but why they are similar? Because for their same ecological need. Okay, that hummingbird also suck nectar of flowers, and sunbird here in India, sunbird, they also suck nectar of flowers. So they are utilizing the same ecological niche. So ecological niche, or only niche, that is in a smaller perspective, that is ecological perspective. But in case of evolutionary perspective, it is so gradual, it needs actually much more time. So the convergent evolution is a evolutionary phenomena, and niche or ecological niche, whatever you might say, this is a ecological phenomena, that is it takes much less time. In NET exam, there are many questions come that what is the difference between this and this. You should have an idea what is the difference between an ecological phenomenon and evolutionary phenomenon. Ecological phenomenon occurs in short span of time, but evolutionary phenomenon is hereditary, obviously, and it takes much more longer time. That's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So I will proceed to the next session. I request our faculty member, Dr. P. John Kiran Garu, to propose vote of thanks. Over to Dr. John Kiran, sir.
Good evening to all. I work as a lecturer in PR Government College, Kakinada. I'll propose a formal vote of thanks. I thank our principal and RJD in charge for granting us permission for organizing a national webinar. And I also thank our lecturer in charge, Shri B. Ahmad Ali Baba sir, Department of Zoology, PR College, Kakinada, and senior lecturer, Dr. N. Srinivas sir, for taking all the pain for organizing an innovative webinar on evolution. I thank the speaker, Dr. Sandeep Pal sir, for his lecture and an interesting story, and for making us understanding that for any discipline of science, evolution is necessary. And he also told on stomatology in the land, the ants on the the first to lay eggs on land, mass extinction, that is KT, mass extinction. I also thank our Vice Principal, Shri TKV Srinivas sir, a lecturer in charge of English department, and our college academic coordinator and a lecturer in charge of Hindi department, Dr. Hariram Prasad sir, for their participation. And finally, I thank all the faculty of various colleges and students and other participants for participating in a seminar like this. Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
With the permission of the lead speaker and the chairperson and our head of the department, I will take the leave. And here is a small announcement to the participants. The certificate link will be sent to your mails, your registered mails. Same like the invitation, what we have sent to your mail, the certificate link also will be sent to your mails, is there, and you will get your certificates. Thank you, one and all. Thank you for your active participation, and without your cooperation, this webinar may not be this much of grand success. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Head
so
of the
much.
department, sir.
Thank you, Sandeep sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Sir, Srinivas
So
sir.
I am signing off, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, respond. Kiran sir, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you. Sandeep will help her.
Sir, honor, sir. Sir is still there. Okay, sir. Sign off. Sir,
Okay, Guru garu.
Kiran sir, you want to talk with Sandeep sir?
Hello.
सर
Yes.
सर इससे पहले सुनील पाल का नाम सुना था कॉमेडी के बादशाह प्रोग्राम में.
Yes.
इसके पहले सुनील पाल का नाम सुना था सर कॉमेडी के बादशाह प्रोग्राम में. दूसरी बार पाल का नाम सुन रहे हैं आपके.
Sir, Kiran sir, your audio is
it is breaking, little bit breaking. That's why I can't get it. Okay, I got to hear.
पहली बार सुनील पाल का नाम सुना था कॉमेडियन ने. दूसरी बार आपके साथ ये नाम सुन रहे हैं हम लोग कॉमेडी के बादशाह में. We have a colleague here in the university, sir. His name is Paul, sir.
Okay.
అయ్యి బాబాడు ఎండే బాబాడు ఇలా రా.
Sir, bye, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir, cut it.
Sandeep sir, I'll take
Srinivas
leave, sir.
Okay. Fine.
I'll take leave, sir. I'll be in
Yes.
contact with you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pranam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all the participants again. Once again, thank you so much. I'll be signing up.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
శ్రీనివాస్ సార్
Thank you,
ప్రోగ్రామ్
sir.
బాగుంది.
కిషోర్ గారు నమస్తే. Thank you.
శ్రీనివాస్ సార్
సార్ చెప్పండి.
సార్ మంచి ప్రోగ్రామ్ విడిచి వెళ్ళిపోద్ది అవ్వట్లేదు అది. ఉంటాను బాయ్. మరి తప్పదు.
ఉన్నాను సార్, ఉన్నా. ఏమవుతుంది, ఇంకా 44 మెంబర్స్ ఉన్నారు. ఉన్నా అంటే ఉన్నాం.
బాబోయ్ వద్దు.
జాన్ కిరణ్ సార్ మంచి ప్రోగ్రామ్ తీసుకున్నారు సార్ మీరు.
బాబోయ్ మీరు వచ్చారా? శ్రీనివాస్ గారు చేశారు అంతానే.
రావాలి కదా సార్.
అసలు ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేయకండి, శ్రీనివాస్ గారు అంతానే. చాలా మంచి.
భలే చెప్పారు సార్. అంతా మన సర్వీస్ సార్.
లేదు నీకు గ్రేస్ ఇచ్చారు గాడ్ మీకు అరేంజ్ చేయడానికి.
థ్యాంక్ యూ.
చెప్పారు కదా 5 నుంచి 6 రోజులు చేస్తారు గబగబా అని.
అంతే 4 days సార్, జస్ట్ 4 days.
ప్రిన్సిపల్ గా చెప్పడం